you're very thorough in your learning. So what I've done is I've used the sleight of mouth pattern to recategorize a capability. If I can say, well, being a slow learner just means that you are very concerned about the information that you're getting, now I'm relating it more to an identity. If I say, it's not that you're a slow learner, it's just that you had trouble with this particular content, now I've just reduced it to a capability. I found that this kind of thing is really important if you're in business, if you're in education, whatever, in giving or in taking criticism. If somebody doesn't do well on something and you're in business, do you say, you are a screw-up? That's an identity statement. Or do I say, well, you did poorly on this particular assignment? Or do I say, well, you're not very good at managing people? That's a capability. Or do I say, people of your ethnic group have this kind of trouble? I mean, that's a belief. So any one of those, and by the way, here's the other thing. People will often make these beliefs, they'll make the connection themselves whether you say it or not. I remember, by the way, it was interesting, I was modeling a person who worked in a very high-stress job, and we were modeling his ability to take criticisms, because he's one of those people that worked, he's worked in this kind of person where people always called and complained to him if there was any trouble. So I was real interested. This person was able to do it well. He wasn't burned out. He wasn't stressed out, wasn't sick. So I thought, this is interesting. How does he do this? And so we started putting him into certain situations and role plays. And I started to criticize, pretend like, role play criticism. And what I noticed is that he would immediately take everything, any complaint, and reduce it to a specific behavior or an environment. So for instance, if someone called up and said, you guys screwed up my order, he'd say, well, what specifically happened? Tell me what happened. What did you do and what happened? So he wouldn't take this, oh, I'm sorry, we really messed up, really excuse me. He just said, oh, tell me what happened. That's really important, I'd like to know. And he literally, by the way, because I was doing different things, if you looked straight at him and started pointing at him, he would actually he would start turning it like people do in martial arts. They teach you how to, instead of taking it right here, you kind of turn this way. He would take the person's criticism just like this, and he'd start talking about the problem over here, not the problem, So he'd move it over there. What happened? And he goes, I told your people are so incompetent. So here you get to belief capabilities. And he said, well, yes, people do what they do and mistakes happen. So in other words, once again, he just took this and put it into behaviors. He didn't say, yes, my people are incompetent, or no, they're not incompetent. He just said, well, people do what they do, and mistakes happen. It's not necessarily a connection between the two of them, but so he was pacing the person, but literally using sleight of mouth to recategorize the statements. And what was really powerful, because I know I was trying to go into a certain state to role play, being a complaint, and you just couldn't stay angry. He wasn't arguing with you. He was taking what you said and just restating it, feeding it back. And if you do active listening, and you listen to what people like Carl Rogers did, a lot of this so-called paraphrasing is actually changing the level at which something is occurring. Likewise, if you want to give feedback to somebody, sometimes if you say, I know this from teaching NLP, sometimes if you say, well, you could have placed that anchor better, the person interprets it as, you're a completely inadequate human being, And now the thing is that if you go, well, I didn't say that, I didn't mean that. This is where it becomes important, I think, to validate those levels. Don't take it for granted that the person's only going to perceive your communication at the level that you're giving it. You all know, if you have children, or you hang around children, that there are certain ages where they take everything personally. It doesn't matter. They're building their identity, so everything is a feedback about their identity, even if it's one little thing. Oh, my hair's out of place. Oh, what a disgusting person I am, So, in other words, it's a specific behavior, but the person takes it as an identity level feedback. So part of what I'm saying is that one of the big strategies and keys then for using sleight of mouth effectively is being able to, for instance, take a positive belief and elevate it, say, to an identity level. So if someone says, well, I'm good at being creative,
That's not identity level yet. That's not I am creative. That's, well, I'm good at doing this, or that kind of thing. Does anybody here do body work with people? One of the things that you guys will realize, because I find this all the time, is people that work with someone's body or in the health area where somebody's got a particular problem. I see this all the time when a person goes, oh, you can't lift my arm up to past here. What happens is you actually get them to lift their arm past there. And they go, well, okay, well, I did it once. Yeah. So it's like, you're expecting them to go, oh, this is amazing, now I can do this. What they do is they can either take it as just being a specific behavior. Or they can even go to the environment. Not even I did it once, you did it for me. That's an environmental statement. It doesn't impact me at all. Or, well, I did it once. The next step is to say, okay, I am capable of doing it. That's the next level of generalization. Then you start getting to the belief. I will be able to do this whenever I want. And not only that, I can use this as a way to also continue other healing processes versus the identity, which is, I am a healthy person now. I'm a flexible and healthy person. So once again, you notice that just the fact that you've given somebody specific behavior doesn't necessarily mean they're going to automatically generalize it. Some people will take one experience and generalize it. I mean, I've seen people, well, I walked across fire once, that means I can do anything I want to my body, and, nothing will happen to it. That's jumping a little too far there to a belief. Or, to an identity. Well, I can walk across fire, so therefore I'm only one step down from Jesus Christ to, the next step is just water. So, in other words, that becomes an identity statement. And, of course, the question is, and the interesting thing about beliefs is, what happens when you jump these levels? And what evidence gives you, what is appropriate evidence to show you that you have the ability to do something? We get to beliefs like we're saying, beliefs are pretty fuzzy. They're not really about reality. And identity, as far as I can tell, has nothing to do with reality. Identity has to do with things. When the people that I know, for instance, who are able to really deal with serious illnesses, that is, beat the odds, beat the belief system, are people that reach way down there into the identity and pull that out. It's beyond belief. It's who am I? The next interesting question, I suppose, which we're not answering here, is what's beyond identity? How do you get down there and change identity? But we'll leave that for speculation at this point. Let's go over one other set of, there's one other set of examples here, which is, let's say you're teaching somebody anchoring in NLP, which is, I'm establishing a trigger for a response. Again, environmental statement, if I've done this behavior where I've anchored somebody, could be either, anchors are easy to establish during group exercise. Well, it wasn't me. The exercise caused it to happen. It's the environment. Or the specific behavior, well, I established an anchor on that person. I did it once, or you did that once. So that's just the statement of the behavior. I could generalize it to a capability. You're capable now of anchoring people. So you have the ability to anchor. It's not the same as I anchored one person one time. I could generalize it beyond that. Knowing how to anchor makes you a more powerful person. That's a belief. It's not necessarily true. There's no way of necessarily proving it, but that's a belief. You could also believe knowing how to anchor makes me a manipulative person. That would be a different way of interpreting. Finally, you could go to an identity level. I'm a neurolinguistic programmer. I'm a good NLPer. It's identity language. So as far then as these basic strategies for how to